Hello everypony, Prince Alagorn of Aquilonia here, hoping you all had yourselves a fine New Year's Eve, because I'm about to take a gigantic fucking shit on your New Year's Day. I'm going to be reviewing, if you can even call it review, it's more like a rant with commentary, but whatever. We'll deal with it when we come to it. Anyways, I'm going to be trying to review Sweet Apple Massacre today. I deeply apologize for this, but I have so much I want to say about this, and I've been waiting so long to get it out. So, let's just get down to business. I should have done this review back around Halloween when I first read this. But, here we are, 2 months later, and I'm just now getting to it. There's a reason for that. It's taken me this long to try to process this story. What the fuck did I read? No, seriously, what the fuck did I read? Somebody hand me the goddamn bleach so I can try to scrub my fucking brain out. If you have not had the pleasure of reading this thing, here's a synopsis. After a hard day's work, Big Mac is just hanging out in the orchard trying to relax and get some peace and quiet. Unfortunately, the CMC are there and bothering him. Annoyed, he offers to take them to the cellar to show them the cider press and show them how to make cider. It's a trap. He proceeds to rape them one by one and butcher them. Then he necro-rapes them. And then we end on a cliffhanger with Applejack calling down into the cellar, Big Mac thinking AJ would be a good challenge and that he'd get some true peace and quiet with her gone as well, and him trying to lure her down. There's a few sequels where either AJ kills Big Mac, it's all a dream of apple blooms and everyone has to try to deal with it, or AJ turns out to be a masochistic snuff fetishist that gets off on Big Mac abusing her. They're of varying quality, but none are what I would really consider good. We're not talking about them today though, only the original. I really have no fucking words for this. And this is going to sound really strange, but it's not the content that bothers me. I mean, don't get me wrong. To me, this crosses so many lines. And not just crosses them, but fucking obliterates them. Child rape, check. Child murder, check. Necrophilia, check. Lovingly detailed descriptions of what happens when you mix shit and cum together, check. Yep, this is about as far as you can push the content of any story. The only thing that could make this more extreme would be if Big Mac were to cut the baby Jesus out of Mary's room and rape him. And yet, all of that doesn't really bother me. See, since age 13, I've made it my mission to seek out more and more extreme forms of media in an effort to test my personal boundaries and see just how much I'm willing to take, just to prove to myself I have the testicular fortitude for it. I've survived Naked Blood, Ichi, Cannibal Holocaust, Sallow, which this story kind of reminds me of, but it's nowhere near the same quality, Men Behind the Sun, Lucio Fulci's films, the entire Romero Dead series, Cannibal Ferox, Aftermath, and Necromantic 2. Don't get me wrong, this does overstep my boundaries, and it does make me extremely uncomfortable. What really gets under my skin is the scat material. No offense to anyone that enjoys scat fetish, but it's not really my thing. I just don't see the attractive quality to bodily waste. Is it just because it's taboo and hidden? I don't get it. But I could let all of that slide if it weren't for one simple thing. This might be the single worst piece of shit I have ever read in my godforsaken life. And before anyone says, it's a grimdark, it's not trying to be great literature, but provide nightmare fuel. I already know that. And in that respect, it works. This stuff will stick to you for a long time. 2 months later, and I still wake up in cold sweats thinking Big Mac is going to do things to me. But for me, if you're going to write a story, actually write a fucking story. What we have here is a plot with some dialogue, not a story. A story has a coherent structure and an internal logic that makes the scenes fit together in a way where they lead one into the other. We don't have that here. This is just a series of barely connected scenes of escalating mayhem with no logic or reason to it. Things just happen, and they don't stop fucking happening. That's not a narrative. That's not a story. It's a fever dream. No, screw that. Even dreams have some sort of sense to them on a symbolic level. On top of that, this was written on a first grade level. The sentences are structured like the writer just learned how to connect nouns and verbs together with adjectives and adverbs. The descriptions are graphic and yet somehow not at the same fucking time. The sex is more detailed than the actual gore, and the only reason for that is because they're longer paragraphs made of a bunch of rapid-fire sentences in long strings. And the vocabulary consists of kindergarten words interspersed with some graphic sexual terms and cursing. I think a retarded amoeba could come up with something more competent than this. This thing should not exist. This is not how you write a grimdark. Sure, it's effective at freaking you the fuck out, but it doesn't have anything more to offer. Rainbow Factory has a great atmosphere going for it. Cupcakes has a certain manic glee, not to mention lovingly detailed gore that's actually put together in a coherent manner. Cheerlee's Garden has both an excellent descent into madness story that makes you understand the killer, as well as having probably the most brutal death scenes ever written. A perfect combo for this type of thing, because it makes for a complete ride. And then the Tumblr blogs, especially Discord Hooves, the original Pinkamena, and Little Miss Rarity, have fantastic characterization that makes you empathize with complete psychopaths and then makes you feel like shit for it later. Also, Little Miss Rarity does the whole sadomasochistic snuff fetish thing a shitload better. The Dot Mob series and Princess Molestia have weirdo humor working for their benefit. Each of these offers something beyond just the gross out factor that makes them worth revisiting. What does this have? It's simple extremity. That's all it offers. Remember how Voice of Reason said the 4th issue of the microseries is the worst thing MLP related? Yeah, I love you, dude, and I really mean that, but you can go fuck yourself. This is the worst thing MLP related by a long fucking shot. Content that shatters the boundaries of good taste, put together in an incoherent manner, with writing that wouldn't even be suitable for a young mentally challenged child's diary. Yeah, this is awful. This makes Ponytails look like a Midsummer Night's Dream. This makes G3 look like the portrait of the artist as a young man. This makes Gen 3.5 look like fucking Citizen Kane. It's that bad. This, my friends, is so damn painful that I would rather pass a kidney stone while lighting my nuts on fire than put myself through this kind of torture again. To wrap this up, there is no rating on this, and for good reason. I simply don't give negative stars, and this is easily worth a negative 100 stars. This is not only the worst MLP related thing I've experienced, but this might be the single worst thing ever written.